Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Today is Tuesday, November 12th, 2019. I have a lot to get to today. Monday Night Football last night, an absolute classic. We'll talk about that and look at a little bit to next week and do guess the lines. College football, there's games on tonight. I have what I think is going to be the college football playoff rankings in front of me. Bowl projections for week number 12. We also have college basketball to talk about. NBA and NHL. Managers of the year in baseball will be announced tonight. And my best bet of the day. Okay, we're going to start the Monday night thriller that was between the Seahawks and the 49ers, in which the Seahawks came out on top to hand the 49ers their first loss of the season, 27-24 in overtime as time expired in the overtime period. Had not been for Jason Myers making that field goal, we would have ended up in a tie, and that would have been ugly, and that would have messed up the entire playoff picture. Seattle's 8-2, San Fran's 8-1. Russell Wilson, 24-34, 232 yards, a touchdown, the pick. Jimmy Garoppolo, 24-46, 248 yards, a touchdown, the pick. Neither quarterback was really all that special, but you got to give Russ Wilson credit because he made the big plays down the stretch to put his team in the position to win. This was, in my opinion, Garoppolo's worst game of the year. I think he'll rebound from it. His team still had a chance to win, and he helped lead the team down the field to potentially tie the game and to potentially win the game. But the kicker for San Francisco, Chase McLaughlin, who's the filling kicker for Robbie Gould, makes the game-tying kick to send it to overtime, but misses the potential game-winning kick that would have had San Francisco still undefeated. But anyway, a fantastic game. I think this was the second best game of the year, only to the Houston-New Orleans Monday night opener with Deshaun Watson and Drew Brees, and that was one of the best games ever, that Monday night game, between two Super Bowl contenders. Although these two teams are contenders too, but I'm not so convinced about Seattle rather than San Francisco. San Francisco has the pass rush that can lead them to a Super Bowl, in my opinion. But to me, Seattle's defense is so bad that I'm not convinced that they're going to be in the NFC title game, unless if Russell Wilson does what he did last night to help win them that game. But there were times in that game where that offensive line really was exposed by that Niners pass rush, and conversely, their secondary was exposed at times in that game too, with the depth of the 49ers rosters, with some injuries, especially George Kittle being out. And that team does have a lot of depth, and Seattle has a lot of depth. That's another thing that a lot of people learned last night. So, good win by Seattle. Disappointing loss for the Niners. I'm not going to suggest that the Niners are not as good now because they lost a game. But this was a great game. They could have won this game. You could argue they should have won this game. But there were some coaching miscues by Kyle Shanahan down the stretch, and then the injuries to Robbie Gould and to George Kittle ultimately came back to bite him in this game as well. Now we're going to talk about the NBA results from last night, and we'll look ahead to tonight's slate. The Timberwolves defeat the Pistons 120-114. Minnesota 6-4, Detroit 4-7. Andrew Wiggins had 33. He's really off to a good start this season, and Luke Kennard has 25 for Detroit. Celtics over the Mavs 116-106. Boston 8-1. They're in first place in the East. Dallas is 6-4. Kemba Walker had 29. Luka Doncic had 34. Grizzlies over the Spurs 113-109. A big upset as the Grizzlies go to 3-7. San Antonio 5-5. The Spurs retired Tony Parker's jersey after the game. Jaren Jackson Jr. had 24, and LaMarcus Aldridge had 19. Rockets over the Pelicans 122-116. Houston 7-3. New Orleans 2-8. James Harden had 39. J.J. Redick had 24. Clippers over the Raptors, 98-88. Clippers 7-3. Toronto 7-3. Clippers got the cover there late in the game. Lou Williams had 21. Pascal Siakam had 16. Jazz over the Warriors, 122-108. Jazz 7-3. Golden State 2-9. Rudy Gobert 25. D'Angelo Russell had 33. Tonight's slate is pretty big. 7 o'clock, you have the Thunder at the Pacers. NBA TV, 7 o'clock, Cavs at the 76ers. 76ers will be without Al Horford and Ben Simmons. 7:30, Pistons at the Heat. 8 o'clock, Knicks at the Bulls. 9 o'clock, Nets at the Jazz. Hawks at the Nuggets. Lakers at the Suns. 10 o'clock, NBA TV. Portland at Sacramento. The lock of the night is Portland -1.5 against the Kings. The Kings are without De'Aaron Fox right now due to injury, and they're without Marvin Bagley. I expect Portland to win by double digits. Why is this 1.5? Someone explain to me. Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are like, we got this. Like, Portland, I think, should be -5 in this game. Like, I think I'm getting a couple points of value here at Portland. I love this pick. This might be the lock of the year. As much as I loved Pistons -4 against the Knicks a few days ago, this is a bigger lock because of the injuries to De'Aaron Fox and Marvin Bagley. I absolutely love the Blazers here. They have the best player on the court in Damian Lillard, and Dame is going to go off. He's going to have like a 37, 8, and 7 type of performance. So my lock of the night in the NBA, the Portland Trail Blazers -1.5 at Sacramento on NBA TV. NHL, there was only 2 games last night, and tonight's slate is actually pretty big. The Coyotes defeated the Capitals 4-3 in a shootout on national TV. Arizona 10-6-2, Washington 13-2-4. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals, Evgeny Kuznetsov. Number 2 star of the game, 31 saves on 34 shots, Antti Raanta. Number 3 star of the game with a goal, TJ Oshie. Hurricanes over the Senators 8-2. Impressive win by the Canes. They're 10-7-1. Ottawa's 6-10-1. Number 1 star of the game with a goal and 2 assists, Joel Edmondson. Number 2 star of the game with 2 goals, Sebastian Aho. Number 3 star of the game with the goal and an assist, Warren Fogle. Like I said, tonight's slate is much bigger. At 7 o'clock, you have the Panthers at the Bruins. Blue Jackets at the Canadiens. 7:30, NBCSN. Penguins at the Rangers. On the call this game, probably Kenny Albert and Pierre Maguire. Because it just feels like a game that those two would call. I'm going to take the Rangers here at home. I think they bounce back from that loss against the Panthers. Sidney Crosby's not playing for Pittsburgh in this game, so the Rangers should win this game. And I think it'll be competitive. Don't get me wrong. Penguins are still a good team without Crosby. But the Rangers are playing a lot better. Although they did lose on Sunday, but that was in a shootout. They probably should have won that game against Florida the other day. So give me New York to get a big win on home ice on national television yet again. 8 o'clock, Coyotes at the Blues, Avalanche at the Jets, 10 o'clock, Predators at the Canucks, Red Wings at the Ducks, 10:30, Wild at the Kings, Oilers at the Sharks. College basketball. Last night's slate was not that big. Tonight's slate is significantly bigger. So, without further ado, here we go. North Dakota State over Cal Poly, 74-67. North Dakota State 2-1, Cal Poly 0-2. Kent State over Towson, 84-80 in overtime. Kent State 2-0, Towson 2-1. Buffalo over Nazareth, 109-72. Buffalo goes to 1-1. NC Central over South Carolina Upstate, 73-64. NC Central 1-1, South Carolina Upstate 1-2. Cincinnati over Drake, 81-59. Cincinnati 1-1, Drake 1-1. Mercer over Kennesaw State, 74-62. Mercer 2-1, Kennesaw 0-3. Dartmouth over Florida Gulf Coast, 55-49. Dartmouth 2-0, Florida Gulf Coast 0-3. Stony Brook over Farmingdale, 91-44. Stony Brook is now 1-2 on the year. Presbyterian over VMI, 80-77 in overtime. Presbyterian 1-1, VMI 0-3. IUPUI over Anderson, Indiana, 72-55. IUPUI is now 1-2. North Florida over Georgia Southern, 80-77. North Florida 2-1. Georgia Southern 1-2. Bowling Green over Jacksonville, 75-59. Bowling Green 2-1. Jacksonville 1-2. UNC Greensboro over Everett, 109-51. Greensboro is now 2-1. McNeese over Southeast New Orleans, 104-33. McNeese is now 1-2. Georgia Tech over Elon, 64-41. Georgia Tech's 2-0. Elon's 2-1. Elon got the push there in that game. Belmont over Stanford, 95-63. Belmont 1-1. Stanford 1-2. A&M over Yale Monroe, 63-57. A&M 2-0. Yale Monroe 2-1. DePaul over Iowa, 93-78. An impressive win for DePaul on the road. They're 4-0 and Iowa's 1-1. Vanderbilt over A&M, Corpus Christi, 71-66. Vanderbilt 2-0. Corpus Christi 0-2. Alabama over FAU, 78-59. Good bounce back win for Alabama. They're 1-1. FAU 1-2. Texas Rio Grande over Howard Payne, 93-42. Rio Grande 1-1. UAB over Alabama A&M, 74-52. UAB 2-0. Bama A&M 0-2. Southeast Louisiana over Xavier, Louisiana. SCLA is 1-1. Omaha over Bethune-Cookman, 90-61. Omaha 2-1. Bethune-Cookman 1-2. Winthrop over number 18 St. Mary's, 61-59. That's a pretty big upset. Winthrop 2-1. St. Mary's 1-1. It looks like that there's a game winner in that game for Winthrop. So that was a close game. I'm interested to see St. Mary's going forward. That really is a bad loss after winning against a Power 5 team in Wisconsin. San Francisco over Yale, 84-79 in overtime. San Francisco 3-0, Yale 2-1. So San Francisco covers by a half point. South Dakota over Florida A&M, 85-82. South Dakota 3-0, A&M 0-4. Hawaii over Pacific, 72-67. Hawaii 2-1, Pacific 2-2. Tonight's slate is way bigger. 6 o'clock ESPNU, Pitt at Robert Morris. Interesting game. With Pitt going to an NEC school. So I'm very fascinated to see how Robert Morris shows up. It's just like their Super Bowl. Pitt obviously coming off that loss to Nichols. I want to see how they rebound. I'm going to say Pitt probably wins and barely covers. That's just my guess. 6:30 Fox Sports 1, Creighton at Michigan. Michigan's a 5-point favorite. I am going to take Michigan to win and cover. I don't feel good about it, though. 7 o'clock SEC Network, Evansville, number 1, Kentucky. Kentucky should have no problem there. ACC Network, Central Arkansas, number 2, Duke. Duke should have no problem there. CBS Sportsnet, Missouri at number 21, Xavier. Xavier's favored by 6. I think Xavier's going to easily cover against Missouri. Paul Quinn at Alcorn State. Northern Kentucky, Coastal Carolina. Apprentice Hampton. Davidson, Charlotte. Mississippi Valley State, Western Michigan. Cairn Lehigh. Chattanooga, Troy. NCAT, Western Carolina. Wesley Wagner. UMass Boston, UMass Lowell. Delaware State, Manhattan. So both these teams are actually starting tonight. A week late to the party. North Alabama, Indiana on the Big Ten Network. Indiana should have no problem there. ACC Network, Howard and Notre Dame. Notre Dame should have no problem there. Fox Sports 2, New Hampshire and St. John's. St. John's should have no issue there. SEC Network, the Citadel and Georgia. Georgia should not have an issue there. East Carolina, Appalachian State. Lamar, Duquesne. St. Bonaventure, Siena. American, George Washington. Northeastern, UMass. South Carolina State's and Liberty. Hartford, Marist. Campbell, UNC, Wilmington. Maryland Eastern, Longwood. Bridgewater, Radford. Air Force, Army. William and Mary, Wofford. Goshen, Eastern Michigan. Choate, Eastern Kentucky. Fairfield, Holy Cross. 7:30 Rice, Northwestern State. Furman, Charleston Southern. Wiley, Louisiana Tech. SEC Network, Norfolk and Ole Miss. Ole Miss should have no issue. 8 o'clock, number 22 Auburn at South Alabama. South Alabama is projected to be among the favorites in the Sun Belt this season, and Auburn, to their credit, is scheduling true road games against quality mid-majors, and I think that Auburn's going to go out and win by double digits on the road. I'm a big fan of this Auburn team. This should be a top 3 team in the SEC this year, and I think they'll get it done on the road tonight. Jackson State, Tulane, Cal Baptist, Texas. How is Texas not ranked after beating Purdue? I don't know. North Texas, Arkansas, Texas Lutheran, Incarnate Word, Wisconsin Lutheran, Milwaukee, Cleveland State, Missouri State, Valpo, SIU, Edwardsville, Northern Illinois, Iowa State, Alabama State, Houston, Coppin State, Loyola, Chicago, Chicago State, Eastern Illinois, Prairie View, Texas State, Lipscomb, Tennessee State, New Orleans, SMU, Oral Roberts, Tulsa, Louisiana, TCU. 8:30, Fox Sports 1, Minnesota, Butler. This should be an interesting game. Butler's a 9-point favorite. I'm going to say Butler wins, but Minnesota covers. Brescia, Jacksonville State, Wright State, Tennessee Tech, 9 o'clock, North Dakota, number 8, Gonzaga. Gonzaga should have no issue there. Biggest game of the night, 9 o'clock, ESPN, number 14, Oregon against number 13, Memphis. James Wiseman looks like he's going to play after all this, whatchamacall going on, the ineligibility stuff. He played Friday night, and it looks like he's going to play tonight. Regardless, Oregon's the better team. I think they're going to win the game on the court. They're the better team with the better coach. Although Weissman might be the best player on the court, but Oregon's the better team. So give me Oregon. I think they cover the 4. I think they win by between 7 and 10 points. I think there's going to be a little bit of distraction for Memphis because of the Weissman situation and whatnot. So give me Oregon to win by double digits potentially on the Phil Knight Invitational. And I believe that game is being played from Portland, Oregon at the Moda Center. It is. Okay, I was right about that. Denver against number 17, Utah State. Utah State should have no issue there. Mount St. Mary's at number 20, Washington on the Pac-12 Network. Washington deserves to be ranked after that Baylor win, and I had them ranked before the season in my top 25 personally, and they should have no issue with Mount St. Mary's. Ottawa, Arizona on Utah Valley. New Mexico State, UTEP. Colorado College, Northern Colorado. 9 o'clock, CBS Sports Network, Miami and UCF. Interesting game. UCF obviously made the tournament last year and arguably should have beaten Duke. That Taco Fall game. Taco Fall's not there anymore. I think UCF's going to take a step back this year. Miami got waxed by Louisville in their opener, and then they rebound and win their last game. UCF was initially favored in this game, and now Miami's a 1.5-point favorite. This is tough for me. I'm going to say Miami gets the win on the road. They have the better head coach in Jim Larinaga, and they have the better talent. So give me Miami. I don't feel good about it. I'm going to say they win by 5 points. 9 o'clock on the SEC Network, Murray State against Tennessee. Tennessee should have no issue there. Long Beach State, Stanford. Stanford should not lose to Long Beach State, and I don't think they will. Life Pacific, UC Irvine. 10 o'clock, Texas Arlington, Nevada. Washington State, Santa Clara. So Washington State in a true road game against the okay team from the WCC. I think Santa Clara might actually win that game. South Dakota State and USC. And by the way, Santa Clara is minus 3.5 in that game. USC should not have a problem with South Dakota State. South Dakota State lost Mike Baum and aren't the same team as they were in the years past. Pacific Oregon against Seattle University. Fresno State at San Diego. Pepperdine, Cal State, Northridge. 11 o'clock, UNLV and Cal. Cal's only a 3-point favorite at home against UNLV. And 11 o'clock, ESPN2, Oklahoma and Oregon State. That's the second game of the Phil Knight Invitational from Portland. Oklahoma's a favorite by 1.5. This is tough. A tough game to pick. So the 2 Oregon schools that are big time from the Pac-12 are involved in this. And then you have Memphis with James Weissman, and then you have Oklahoma, who made the tournament last year. The best player on the court is Trace Tinkle of Oregon State. And I think Oregon State's actually going to win this game. And the crowd is obviously going to be pro-Oregon State. So I expect them to go out and win. And I think that they can potentially win this game by double digits against an Oklahoma team that's a bottom 3 team in the Big 12, in my opinion. So give me Oregon State as a 1.5-point underdog. If anything, this should be Oregon State by 3. If not, because it's a quote-unquote neutral, then maybe 1.5 in favor of Oregon State, not Oklahoma. I think the wrong team's favored in that game. So give me Oregon State plus 1.5. In terms of a best play for tonight in college basketball, I'm going to say Oregon against Memphis because I just think that Oregon right now is the better team. Memphis with all the distractions with Weissman and whatnot. So best play of the night, Oregon -4 against the Memphis Tigers. Now we're going to talk some college football. We're going to go over the slate for tonight and pick the games. So there's only 2 games on tonight. The numbers are courtesy of DraftKings. First game tonight, Eastern Michigan against Akron. Eastern Michigan's giving 17. The over-under is 46.5. I'm going to lay it with Eastern Michigan only because Akron is just so bad, and they're 0-9 against the spread as well as 0-9 straight up. So give me Eastern Michigan -17. I'm going to hold my breath and pray that Akron finally doesn't cover. Again, this is more of an anti-Akron play against the spread than a pro-Eastern Michigan. Then you have Western Michigan at Ohio. Western Michigan's giving 1. The over-under is 63.5. I'm going to take Ohio getting the point at home. They're the home team. Ohio should still make a bowl because even if they lose this game, they have 2 easy games coming up after with Bowling Green and Akron. So worst case scenario, they'll be 6-6, and they'll be in a bowl. But I think that they're going to win this game. They'll get up for it. I think the Bobcats are undervalued here, and Western Michigan's a little overvalued here on the road. So give me Ohio plus the point. I think they win the game on the field tonight. Now I'm going to do my 2019 college football Week 12 bowl projections. A lot of changes throughout this. College football playoff right now, Fiesta Bowl, I have number 2 Ohio State against number 3 Clemson. Peach Bowl, number 1 LSU against number 4 Alabama. I think Oregon State gets tripped up somewhere along the way and then beats Utah in the Pac-12 title game. And Alabama beats Auburn and then ends up sliding in there in the 4th spot, just like they did a few years ago when they didn't win their conference. Rest of the New Year's 6 bowls, the Cotton Bowl, Cincinnati and Utah. Boise State and Utah. Orange Bowl, Virginia, Penn State. Rose Bowl, Oregon, Minnesota. Sugar Bowl, Georgia, Baylor. Other bowl games, Bahamas Bowl, North Texas, Central Michigan. Frisco Bowl, Tulane and Liberty. New Mexico Bowl, Western Kentucky, Hawaii. Cure Bowl, SMU, Georgia Southern. Boca Raton Bowl, Temple, Miami of Ohio. Camellia Bowl, Buffalo, Appalachian State. The Vegas Bowl, Air Force, Washington State. New Orleans Bowl, FAU, Louisiana. Gasparilla Bowl, Navy and Louisiana Tech. Hawaii Bowl, BYU and Wyoming. Independence Bowl, Southern Miss, Utah. Louisville. Where am I reading Utah from? The Quick Lane Bowl, NC State, Michigan State. Military Bowl, UCF, Florida State. That's a nice one. Pinstripe, Miami and Indiana. Texas Bowl, Kansas State and Texas A&M. Holiday Bowl, Michigan and Washington. Cheez-It, Notre Dame and Oklahoma State. That's a ratings game. Camping World, Virginia Tech and Texas. First Responder, Marshall and Iowa State. Music City, Pitt and Kentucky. Redbox, Troy, Cal. Belk, Wake Forest, Mississippi State. Sun Bowl, Duke, Arizona State. Liberty, Cincinnati, TCU. Arizona Bowl, San Diego State, Georgia State. Alamo Bowl, Oklahoma, USC. That's a sexy one on paper. Citrus, Wisconsin, Florida, Outback, Iowa, Auburn, Birmingham, UAB, Memphis, Gator, Illinois, Tennessee, Famous Idaho Potato, Western Michigan, Utah State, Armed Forces, Toledo, Fresno, Mobile, Alabama, Ohio against Arkansas State. Now I'm going to do my projected college football playoff rankings for this week. A lot of changes, obviously, to them. So without further ado, here we go. I am going to go from 25-1, just like the committee did last week, although I like the original way that they used to do it, 25-7, and then release 1-6. But I'm going to do it 25-1, just like they did it last week. 25, I have the Virginia Tech Hokies. 24, the Texas Longhorns. 23, the Indiana Hoosiers. 22, the SMU Mustangs. 21, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. 20, the Boise State Broncos. 19, the Navy Midshipmen. 18, the Memphis Tigers. 17, the Cincinnati Bearcats. 16, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. 15, the Michigan Wolverines. 14, the Wisconsin Badgers. 13, the Auburn Tigers. 12, the Baylor Bears. 11, the Florida Gators. 10, the Penn State Nittany Lions. 9, the Minnesota Golden Gophers. 8, the Oklahoma Sooners. 7, the Utah Utes. 6, the Oregon Ducks. 5, the Alabama Crimson Tide. 4, the Georgia Bulldogs. 3, the Clemson Tigers. 2, the Ohio State Buckeyes. And 1, the LSU Tigers. That's how I think the college football playoff rankings will play out tonight. I'm probably going to be off a little bit, but you never know. I could nail it. If I do nail it, I'll pat myself on the back. Guess the lines for week number 11 of the NFL season. We'll start with Thursday night. The Browns hosting the Steelers. I have Browns by 4. It's Browns by 2.5. Cowboys at the Lions. I have Cowboys by 3.5. It's 4.5. Jaguars at the Colts. I have the Colts by 3, and it is Colts by 3. It looks like Brissett's going to play. If it was Brian Hoyer, then I would have made it Jaguars by 3. Bills at the Dolphins. I have the Bills by 8.5. It's 5.5. I just thought that Vegas was going to continue to overvalue the Bills and somewhat undervalue the Dolphins. Broncos at the Vikings. I have Vikes by 9. It's 10.5. Saints at the Bucks. I have Saints by 7, and it's 5.5. Jets at the Redskins. I have Redskins by 3. It's 1. Falcons at Panthers. I have Panthers by 8.5. It's 5.5. Texans at Ravens. I have Ravens by 3. It's 4. Cardinals at the 49ers. I have the Niners by 14.5. It's an 11.5. Bengals at the Raiders. I have Raiders by 15. It's Raiders by 10.5. I think that's actually too short of a line because the Bengals absolutely suck. Patriots at the Eagles. I have Patriots by 5, and it's 3.5. Bears at the Rams. I have Rams by 7, and that's the correct line. And Chiefs at the Chargers from New Mexico City. I have Chiefs by 4, and it's 3.5. Before I do my best bet, I'm going to predict who will win the 2 managers of the year in the American League and the National League for baseball. Rookie of the Year was announced last night. No surprises. Yordan Alvarez and Pete Alonso. Brandon Lau came in second in the American League Rookie of the Year, and in third place was John Means of the Orioles. And in National League, Mike Soroka came in second. I actually got a first place vote from somebody. I thought that was lunacy. I think that Pete Alonso should have been unanimous, just like Yordan Alvarez was in the AL. And in third place was Fernando Tatis Jr. Okay, American League Manager of the Year. The finalists are New York's Aaron Boone, Minnesota's Rocco Baldelli, and Tampa Bay's Kevin Cash. I think that the winner of this award will be Rocco Baldelli, the Minnesota Twins, and I think he should win it too. That team massively overachieved this year without a true number 1 starting pitcher. A lot of guys on that team had career years, such as Max Kepler, Miguel Sano. Nelson Cruz is still great at the age he's at. I just think this team played in and over their heads, took advantage of the Indians underachieving this year, and Rocco Baldelli deserves credit for taking them to the playoffs. Although he was not did his finest job managing that Yankee series, but these are regular season awards, not playoff awards. So my selection for the American League Manager of the Year is Rocco Baldelli of Minnesota. My runner-up is New York's Aaron Boone. He did a lot with guys that probably shouldn't have been big contributors on the team, such as Giovanni Urshela. A lot of guys had career years. Domingo Germán was like their ace for half of the season, and then he fell off a cliff, and then he ended up getting that suspension for domestic violence. I think Boone's done a nice job. I do think there's a chance he wins, but that team was supposed to be good, unlike the Minnesota Twins. And then I actually had Bob Melvin over Kevin Cash on my ballot, only because I thought the Rays were going to be a playoff team, not the Athletics before the season. And I think Bob Melvin got a lot out of his team with a lot of injuries as well. Granted, Kevin Cash had Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell on the shelf for a lot of the season as well. But Bob Melvin had Sean Manaea on the shelf for most of the season. There's a lot of guys that had regressed from that first wild card year when they lost to the Yankees, or the previous year, like Blake Trinan, Chris Davis. So I think that Bob Melvin done an outstanding job, and I think that he was robbed of a finalist spot for the American League Manager of the Year award. And plus, Cash and Melvin, the one thing those two teams had in common, they were wild card teams, not division winners. But for the National League Manager of the Year, I'm going to go with Craig Counsell of Milwaukee. I think it's incredible that that team made the playoffs without Christian Yelich after he got injured. I thought their season was over, and I thought there was a chance that they were going to lose legit, like 15 of their last 16 remaining games. But extend they went the other way, and they won like 13 of their last 16 or something crazy like that. They lost the wild card game because Josh Hader surprisingly had a bad outing, and Trent Grisham misplayed the ball in right field. If that was Christian Yelich, the Brewers probably win that game. So I think that Counsell should be the NL Manager year. Granted, they were a wild card team, but I just think that he got them to overachieve those last few weeks of the season without Christian Yelich, and that's what, to me, makes him my pick for this award. Losing a player as special as Yelich really should have been a unrecoverable loss, but they somehow got to the postseason without Christian Yelich, which is mind-boggling to me. Granted, they took advantage of a Cubs collapse, and that's really unfortunate, and that's why Joe Maddon is jobless right now, although he probably would have been jobless if the Cubs made it to like the World Series or something like that, then maybe Joe Maddon's still there, but they had to part ways with Maddon. It was time it's run its course there with Maddon and the Cubs. But I think Counsell deserves this award. My runner-up, I'm going to say, is Mike Schill of the Cardinals. I think that they played really well this year, did a great job, and then Snicker right there as well is like 2 and 2A. But I might have actually had Snicker over the Cards manager on my belt. Let's say Manager of the Year. Yeah, Snicker's my runner-up, not Schultz. It's close, though. Both those teams won their respective divisions. Granted, Schultz beat Snicker in the playoffs, but Snicker won a division. They got some guys to really overachieve on that team. But ultimately, Schultz Cardinals beat them in the playoffs. Close, though, but Snicker 2 and then Schilt 3 on my ballot. And I think that Snicker will win the award as the same for Baldelli, because I think both of those teams have massively overachieved this season, especially the Twins. Granted, if the Brewers didn't lose Yelich, I wouldn't be talking about Counsell as my manager of the year pick. Best bet of the day brought to you by DraftKings. Not sure what I want to do here for best bet. Guess I'll just do college basketball and college football. If college basketball, if there's less games than I think, then I'll put Eastern Michigan in there too. We're gonna take Davidson against Charlotte, St. John's against New Hampshire. We're going to go with Manhattan over Delaware State. I don't feel super about that. We'll roll with it. Duquesne over Lamar, Liberty over South Carolina State, Longwood over Maryland Eastern Shore. We will take Texas over Cal Baptist, TCU over Louisiana Lafayette, Iowa State over Northern Illinois, Arkansas over North Texas, SMU over New Orleans, Missouri State over Cleveland State brings us at 12, but we're going to go somewhere else so we can get plus money, so we'll cheat a little bit. Let's go with Stanford over Long Beach State. That would just bring us to slightly above even money. Small wager here, 78 cents to win $1.59. That's it on the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything. NFL Power Rankings. We forgot to do them last week, so we'll do them this week prior to week number 11. Any other news that breaks in the world of sports we'll get to. Jeff Maglicetti will be on with me in about 45 minutes. We'll talk about the Knicks situation, breaking news involving the Brooklyn Nets and a majority CEO, the Giant-Jet game, baseball off season, and a lot more. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.